Hey, Chief.
Hey, brother. First of all, that's an impressive open. When we're done, I need to get the tips on how you did that.
It's okay. Everything could be bought. You know what I'm saying? And here's my T-shirt for Harold. Harold sent me a T-shirt. Here you go, Harold. You happy? You happy? That's all.
Sweet.
So, Chief.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for being on, man.
My pleasure.
This is an off-the-cuff conversation with Chief. We're going to talk about cuffs. By the way, talking about cuffs, you're a cop, right?
Yeah, 24 and a half years in.
24 and a half. And how tall are you?
6'6".
That's an intimidating figure when you come and ask for, can I have your registration and driver's license?
Yeah, and at 245, I bring a little bit of weight.
Well, I don't know. Look, I'm 230. I think I could take you down.
That's because you got that low center of gravity.
Absolutely, man. One swipe of the feet and you're down to my level, and then an elbow in the throat, Bart.
That's right. Well, I don't know if that hit me in the throat. I think it'd be below the belt. Whoa, whoa. See, there you go. Here's what I love. Cops are just like this, by the way. One of the things I love the most is it's this real sarcastic banter. And if you're a new cop or even a cop that's been on a while and you can't take the banter back and forth, you kind of get like, wow, little Mr. Sensitive there or Mrs. Sensitive. There's some female cops that can just cut you to the bone with their repertoire. I mean, they just get you. So I love that, though. Here's a downside. My son, who's almost 13, has grown up in this, and he's got a little bit of that bite sarcasm in there, like he's been on the street for a couple of years. He wants to be a teacher, so I'm not sure how that's going to work.
I don't know.
I know. Bruno, my co-host on the Whiskey Show, and I know we may talk a little bit about that, popped over to film, and my 12-year-old goes, "How you doing, princess?" And without skipping a beat, my buddy goes, "Pretty good, sippy cup." And it just kind of caught him. And I go, "I think you got a new nickname." And that's how nicknames even come out on the street and stuff.
Sippy cup, man. Sippy
cup, yeah. And so Bruno ends up leaving, and he goes, "Dad, I don't know if I like sippy cup." I go, "You think he likes princess?" So, it was perfect. It was perfect. So, all right. So, tell us where we're going, man.
Okay. Well, I mean, I've got Ardwolf who says, Chief.
Boom.
And I got the OG who says, the OG.
I see that.
And I got Nathaniel Robinson saying, "Hi, Dan. Hi, Bart." Again. Hi, yeah, I know this. Nathaniel, it's Bart has been hounding me. We're going to do this, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do this. And I mean, man, okay, let's do it. I said,
That's right. Well, Dan, you got me motivated because StreamYard is always run by my co-host on the Scotch channel. And I hate being in my office, but I use a Mac. He uses a MacBook. And so I went and got a fairly inexpensive PC just so I could run StreamYard on set, but I didn't have it all up and running. And that's why everything's and I just did a live on my channel, kind of make sure I could get everything done right. Let me center.
Now you called your Scotch That's Dummy co-host Bruno. What is his name? Bruno, Scott, Frank, Bob. What's his name?
So what's funny is it's Richard Scott Bruno, but his dad, of course, was Richard, used Dick. Hello. And so growing up, he used his middle name. So it's extremely confusing. If someone for years until we did the Scott show, he was just Bruno. If somebody said, "What's his first name?" I'd have to pause and go, "Oh, Scott." But it's, so police and military, a lot of last name stuff going around. So, and that's why I'll call him Bruno, and it confuses people because for the show, we try to do first names.
Yeah, it confuses me. Look, I've been watching your show for a couple of years, and I still don't know what his name is.
Yeah.
But I remember like he made me laugh so hard. And I just thinking about it one day, you guys were doing the best bourbons. I don't know the way you did it. You hid something so nobody knew. And, you guys had some premium bourbons, all kinds of bourbons. And in the end, when he discovered what his preferred Scotch was, it was just your basic Maker's Mark.
Yep, it was.
No.
We were doing a blind bourbon shootout, 16 bottles, 4 brackets, 4 each, and he picks. We had Blanton's in there. We had all kinds of high dollar. I think there was a cheaper Van Winkle, a Pappy in there, and he picked.
There was a Pappy.
Yeah, but it wasn't the Witzel. I can never say it. Witzer Stellar. I forget.
Right, right. $2 million bottle there.
Yeah, yeah. It was still the. I mean, they're still high end, and they'll go for like $400. But I know.
And I know this is a family show, so I'm going to give people just 3 seconds to put their hands on their child's ears. 1, 2, 3. So Scott's first thing that came out of his mouth, and even my fiance was watching, was, "You gotta be shitting me," and that just killed me.
Yeah,
I knew where this was going, and he goes, "Maker's Mark," and it's like, well, hey,
yep.
That's what it's all about, man.
I picked the Elijah Craig, just their Barrel Select, both of which are like $29 bottles. So we had these $100 bottles in there plus, and blind, he picks the Makers, and I even found it great. It's a wheated, so part of its mash bill has wheat in it, and then the Elijah Craig has a little more rye in it. So yeah, that's the key when you drink blind, when you blind taste and you remove the label and the dollar amount, and you just taste it, you're stunned. And there's a lot of good whiskeys out there.
Now, I mean, that says a lot. Now, bourbon is a whiskey, obviously, but it's an American bourbon.
Right.
And Scottish whiskey, which we call Scotch, and they don't call Scotch, they call it whiskey.
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, they do. I mean, so Scotch, it's all whiskey. It's
all whiskey.
Aged brown spirit, aged spirit. Scotch is a legal term, which means it's got to be distilled in Scotland. It's got to be 3 years old. And then they got some different derivatives, like, is it a blended Scotch whiskey? Is it a single malt?
Yeah, it's like a wine, a DOP, or a cheese, a DOP. It's made in that region, and there you go, type thing, you know?
Right. Yeah, and then so bourbon has a legal designation as well. It's got to be distilled somewhere in America.
That's right.
It's got to be at least 51% corn.
That's right.
And it's got to be in a virgin oak barrel, so it's never had anything else in it.
That's right.
Yeah. So, and they're working on what they call an American single malt, which you could almost think of as, it'll be barley, probably 100% barley. So it'll be kind of like a Scottish single malt, just in America. They don't have a legal definition yet, but they're working on it. And I love the American single malts. So,
well, the American single malts.
That's what they're looking to call it. So I'll give you an example. In Seattle, there's Westland. Westland does barley. They grow their own barley, and then they distill it. And so it doesn't taste like Scotch, but it's definitely not a bourbon. Stranahan's is out of Denver, do the same thing. And then there's a bunch down in Texas that are just unbelievably good. And so it's basically using barley as the primary grain. Now
they obviously use bourbon casks, right, to do the single malt?
Often, not always, but yes, often they do. Matter of fact, down in Texas, it gets so hot that if they're even starting to use second fills or whatever, kind of like Scotland does, because that virgin oak has so many wood tannins that they can't keep it in the barrel for sometimes over 2 years, or it ruins it. It's just,
it'd be like drinking a tree.
100%. So 100%. You nailed
it. I was going to say something before you rambled on. Scotch. Oh, now bourbon versus Scotch, which is not a fair thing to do. Okay, it's not fair at all. But I think my nose is more akin to find flavors in Scotch than it is in bourbon. In bourbon, I always get a lot of caramel all the time. But I can't get the breads. I can't get the grains. It just doesn't happen. But in Scotch, it does happen. And something else I wanted to say. Do you think that if you guys, I don't know if you guys did a favorite Scotch thing like you did the bourbon thing. Now, I think it would be easier to find out a better, not an older, but a better a more complex Scotch than it would be to find a more complex bourbon. Like I think Scott would have not got like a Glenfiddich at $30 Glenfiddich. Am I right?
You're probably right. It's harder to do, so we'll try to do regions. Like we've done Islas. We did a bunch of Islas, which are all heavily peated, like peat, smoke, and some people hate them. And what was amazing is we had some big heavy hitters in there that it feels like you've got a clod of peat moss shoved in your mouth.
Yeah.
And when we did them blind, the peat drifted away and you could actually get the subtleties because they all had peat in them. It was amazing. So the blind tasting is the way to go. I mean, you want to know what you're drinking too, but I've got a little box over here I got to do. I've been intimidated by. So Roy Aquavitae lives in Glasgow, Scotland. He's a buddy of ours. When we were over in Scotland, we hung out with him, did a tasting and some stuff. He sent me a blind challenge. And so the challenge, oh yeah, there you go. What do you got there? Wow. What are you doing?
I'm pissing off Americans.
No, we don't get mad, man. We love you guys.
Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry, I cut you off.
You're good. Then we can get back to board games if you want, or we can stay on this. But
no. I just wanted it's personal. I wanted to find out blah blah blah.
Sure. So he sent me a blind challenge. The rule is I've got to film it, and then I experiment and I open up these letters that tell me some things, or he'll ask me questions. He usually sends something old, like more than 25 years old, and all this different stuff. And I will admit, I should have had it filmed already, but it's been a little intimidating. Maybe I'll do that later today.
What's this gentleman over here? Let's play history. He's a German feller. He's an intellect, a nice guy. His name is Jan Heinemann. By the way, Jan, guten Tag. And you have a comrade over there, Bart Brunscheen, far removed there. But hey, we were friends once. Remember the war? I'm not going to mention it anymore.
Hey, there was a Brunsheens that still live in Berlin. And I met the gentleman. He would have been like a second uncle. When he was 15, he got drug in and they put him on 88 guns defending Berlin against all the bombers coming.
Right. He had no choice.
Right. Yep. So
my family, believe it or not, and it's funny, I'm reluctant to say this, but they were all fascists, all of them. But I mean, they had no choice. What do you want to do?
Yeah.
That's that. Anyways. So, I mean, he asks, what about rum?
Yeah. So I like rum, and I'll give you two side stories. So one, the Scotch Malt Whiskey Society, they've branched out. What they do is they're independent bottlers, meaning they'll go buy from different distilleries and then age them themselves or switch the barrel up or do whatever. So they've been buying some rums, some good like, I can't even remember all the different, they went to a lot of different places in Central America, South America, and picked up some great rums. There's also, when we got, our show got flown out to Ireland, and we went to Waterford, who's an Irish single malt distiller. They're doing a whole thing with barley from Irish growers and stuff. But the gentleman running that is also starting a rum distillery down in Grenada. And so he's bringing in a sugar cane based rum. So a lot of rums you got to watch for. They'll use a molasses, which is just the offing of processed sugar. And it's cheap and it's easy. And a lot of people say it doesn't matter. He says the type of materials matter. So he actually even started a farm because. Of
course it matters.
Exactly. So he's going to do. So I've had some great rums, 30-year rums and stuff. They're sweeter. But I've had some rums that are aged in whiskey barrels as well. And it gets very, very intriguing. So I like rums as well.
Talking about liquor. I don't even know her. Anyways.
You're so dirty.
Okay. My girlfriend's into tasting lots of stuff, right? She's the nose of the family. And She got into tequila. She bought a George Clooney-owned tequila brand. I think he sold for $1 billion. But anyways, I might be wrong. And that was the first high-end tequila I've ever had, because tequila for me was woo, garbage.
Right. Yep.
Tequila, and there was vanilla and chocolate, and it was like, oh, this is tequila?
Yeah.
Oh man, it blew me away. It was $100 a bottle, but
sure, we've had some good mezcals on the show, and there's a lot of cool stuff coming up from Mexico too. So we even like some of these really thick aged beers as well that can be pretty, high proof, thick, viscous, flavorful. So there's a lot of cool stuff out there. Actually, there's a buddy of mine from Regina, Bixby, board gamer, was headed down to BGG, stopped by. I basically said, hey, use my house as a waypoint. You guys spend the night here. I'll make you breakfast in the morning. They were into micro beers, but when they came through, I ran them through a little 4-bottle tasting. And Bixby, his name's Matt Robertson. He had this cool story. He said, only my wife is the one that usually drinks scotch, but she'll go on these, you drive as far north in August as you can, and then you take a helicopter for another 2 hours, and then there's this whole group that they canoe through these rivers that are far north. Yeah, and then she said at night they will have some single malt around a fire, and I'm like, God dang! But now he tells me all the time now he's hooked on these single malts, and he blames me for it. So,
but I mean, what a scenario! The guy, I mean, what better way to do it? What was there a lake there so he can fly fish too? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't know. And then you can see the northern lights, are probably dancing in the background. So,
okay, one more liquor question, and then we'll go to the boring stuff. Okay,
got it.
So for me, I've just discovered in age, in terms of like 8-year-old to 25-year-old, 30-year-old Scotch, my sweet spot is 15.
Sure.
Because I just tried a 25-year-old Glenfarclas.
Okay.
And you know what? I prefer the 12-year-old Bunnahabhain.
Oh, well, Bunnahabhain's unbelievably good.
And really, for your money, that's what a treat.
Right. Well, the less it's aged, usually the less expensive it is. That's why I always say that my peat head fascination with Islay whiskeys is great, because they can age them 8 years, and I love them. And they're just usually not as expensive as these 25 years that are out there. Canada's got some amazing. If you get a chance, look into the Lot 40.
Yes, I can't do that. It tastes like gasoline.
Oh man, try their cask strength. Maybe you don't like. Or what about Wisers? Wisers is really
no, it's all rye based. I'm not a rye guy yet.
Okay,
I'm not a rye guy yet. It's got that bitterness right away, that stringent.
Okay.
But my girlfriend likes Canadian whiskeys.
Well, Canada does a real interesting thing. So whereas America, they'll blend all these kind of different grains. They have a grain mash bill that's 25% rye and 60% corn and 5% barley all together. In Canada, a lot of times, not always, but a lot of times they'll have 100% rye cask, 100% corn cask, 100% barley cask, and then they're all aged, and then they simply sit there and blend them together like a recipe, and they can really make some nice bottles because they've got them all independently aged. So
now, okay, I said last question, but here's the last question. What's your year sweet spot for you?
My year sweet spot?
Like what kind of how old do you like your Scotch, or how young do you like your Scotch?
Gotcha. I'm a peat head. 10-year-old Ardbeg is phenomenal. The Lagavulins, I don't like my peat to be aged too long in a barrel, because that smoky flavor starts to get more and more and more and more subtle as it ages. So young peats, 10, 8 years old, 12 years old, love them. And it keeps the price down. That's not real. I would love them even if they were expensive. I just wouldn't be able to buy as many. So let's see. There are a couple questions. So let's play history first. I guess he was going to do a show, but then saw us crazy nuts on here and couldn't do it. Let's play. It says his great grandfather fought in Italy. Very cool. He also loves gin, great flavors. Yeah, I like gin too. Gin's a little bit different though, with all those pine and herbal kind of notes.
Yeah, we got some good gins here in Montreal, as a matter of fact.
Yep, ryes are so grassy. You can get these real peppery ryes too. That's what I like about it.
That's the CEO talking. That's Kevin Sharp. Pay him no mind.
Let's see, big board gaming, but I love them blended. Sure. All right. So anybody that wants to, you can see in the background, Scotch Test Dummies. If you enjoy whiskey or banter or me wearing crazy shirts and hats, that's where you can go watch Scotch Test Dummies. Now, do me a favor. This is something I'm going to push more on my channel because Scott or Bruno doesn't watch my board game stuff really. He is always, part of it's just shtick. He likes to dig on my board game collection, talks about how they're boring and they're, that's how they're spelled as board games.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, I know. But if anybody's ever watching and you can come in and be, just always add in, I love when you talk about board games. He'll roll his eyes and be like, Jesus.
Okay. That's good. That's good. We'll do that.
Yes. When we have you on live, we're going to have Danny and his girlfriend on live. He does our music. And we want to have them live on a Sunday when it works out. It'll be a fun time.
Okay, let's go to the boring stuff now.
Board games are great.
No, you know what? They are great. And Bart, how long you been? Did you start board gaming when you were young? Stop and then pick it up again?
100%. I'll give you the walkthrough. So it kind of goes back to. And I'm probably going to do a little, I was thinking about doing a little show on this even, but I'll give you a tip. So the first thing as a kid, which kids don't get nowadays, and I guess unless they're on TV land, but I caught some old episodes of Combat when I was like 9. And, Vic Morrow, and I loved it. I was like, whoa, what is this? And then I became an avid reader right around 6th grade. And I started looking at all those Bantam books where it was Tarawa and D-Day and stuff on the B-17. And I read a lot of stuff. And I actually was in the mall when I was 13, 1983. And I saw a store that I actually thought was a bookstore from a distance. And as I got closer, I realized it was all board games, which I didn't know. The family played Sorry and Clue and Monopoly and we were a good card playing family, but I did not know these heavier strategy games existed. I wandered in, was captivated, immediately saw B-17 Queen of the Skies, which came out in 83. And I looked at it, read the back, and I thought, man, that's my favorite plane. I knew the stories. I knew they were a crew of 10. I didn't buy anything that day. I came back like 2 weeks later, and I had my $15 ready, and I bought it. And I remember wanting to get the rules right. And I was, and it seemed like a daunting rule book compared to what I was used to and playing through, and so blessed that was my first game because it captivated me. I probably got 1,000 plays on that game. I created my own squadron with 140 some planes and crewed and named. And so that's how I get in. I play heavily. You're all right. That's your girlfriend calling, saying you.
Should I answer live? No, I'm just let it go. Let it go. It could be very important stuff. I don't want to deal with it.
Yeah, and then you can't get to it. All right.
Yeah. Sorry, people. I didn't think the phone.
Oh, that's all right. We'll work through it. I then play. I play throughout my teens. I remember my parents being worried once because I'm up in the mountains of Colorado. It's a beautiful summer day, and I spent the whole Saturday in my room, and I think they thought, oh, is he getting like the teenage depression? And my mom comes in and checks on me. She's hanging up some clothes, but I noticed she's looking at me, and I'm at my card table just playing B-17 or Ambush. And finally, she was like, don't you think you might want to get outside today? I'm like, oh, no, I'm in the middle of, mission whatever. And I can't go now. And I could tell they thought, uh-oh, he's antisocial. Then they just figured out I was a gamer. So
yeah. And you said something about reading the rules right. Is that important to enjoy a game?
So it was my very first game. And what I would say, so I want the system to work right. Does that mean I get the rules right all the time? Absolutely not. Anybody that's watched my show, it's so funny because someone will watch and I've filmed something and I maybe mess up a rule. I would almost guarantee I'm going to mess up a rule or misstate it. Sometimes I'll catch it in post and I'll put little notes up or something. But even when I play with somebody, we may find out. That's one of the beauties of playing with other people. They're like, why are you doing this in the 4th phase of round 2? And I'm like, well, that's what the rules say. And then we pull it out and it's like, oops, oh my God, I've been playing that wrong for years. So
no, I know. That's and that's the issue with solitaire, is because you're always asking yourself, like, did I do this right? I just won the game. Did I do it right? Because I keep losing, but now I just won. Yeah. Something must be wrong.
What was cool was, and I think the B-17 rule book was like 25 pages or something, but it was that typical Avalon Hill style. I remember my dad asking me, he thought I was reading a magazine. He's like, what are you reading? And I'm like, this is a rule book. He was like, that doesn't look like any rule book I've ever seen. Yeah, and I hand it to him and he thumbs through it and he's like, this is a game? And I'm like, yeah. And, I'm 13. I will tell you to this day, as I got into college, I was working full-time and doing college, but I could kind of tear through a textbook. If anything, I thought it was simplified too much. Here's what you're going to read, and then it's broken into 3 different breakdowns, and then you realize, I was like, man, I only needed to read the first few lines and then skim it. Well, I could digest information in a way because of all the rules that I had kind of consumed. And I to this day, I'll tell people, hey, if your kid gets into gaming, it's going to help them in so many ways. I know schools talk about gamification, but
yeah,
that motivation for me to break down a rule set, be able to refer to it. And I would read it, I read it cover to cover. Then I opened it up like you talk about, and I played as I read again to make sure. And then I played 4 or 5 times, and then I went back and read it again, looking. I remember I had a highlighter, and it kills me. When I look at that today, I got to remind myself I was 13 because I'm like, God dang, why was I highlighting this rule book? I'm an idiot. But I know that was my first time. So,
and I'm probably younger than you, and whatever. And
70, baby.
The thing is that now I notice the younger crowd, like the guy Let's Play History, Jan, and Riccardo Mazzini in Italy, and I'm sure Judd, for God's sakes, Judd. These guys are much more intellects than we were. They take it more. They know more about history. They know more about what happened during then. Judd, sometimes he rattles off stuff from the when you guys were rebels, when you guys were insurgents there. What's it called?
What, Hamtag?
No.
Oh, the Revolutionary War.
Yeah. Remember, you were insurgents, just to say that.
I totally get it. Yeah, no problem with that. We are rebels, baby.
And so it seems like these younger people, maybe it's just me because I had a hard time reading, they read more. It's more intellectualized. They know the strategies, but they still have fun with the game. As opposed to me, I'm a big dummy. Hey, let's play the game and just push counters. These guys know I don't know. Maybe.
No. That's one of my, I think gaming, it's a gradated scale that takes all types. That's one reason I really enjoyed Hamtag with Greg, Judd, and me, because I'm definitely like the lighter gamer. I love the solitaire, the light stuff. I want to get into the theater of the mind. Greg was the hardcore grognard that, he's evaluating the rules on a mechanics level and what's the challenge over, can I play this game 100 times and still get something out of it? I don't want to put words in his mouth because he'll go, that's not what I meant at all. And then Judd, Judd's kind of in between the two, but he's an Ameritrasher, and then he wants to add dinosaurs in.
No, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, that's why I love that show. That's why I think that show worked. I like having different people on. I still want to do Hamtag. I mentioned it on my little blurb on my channel. Judd's going to come in. He told me, hey, I want to do more. We're going to call it Hamtag Light. I still want to do Hamtag the expansion with you and Paul and guests from around the world. So, excuse me. And Greg's got an open invitation. He basically said, you guys kind of churn through games. I get so many games and I don't play them at depth, whereas he'll get 1 or 2 maybe new games or maybe more and then play them deep plays. And so he's like, but he's got an open door invitation. If he ever says, hey, I got an idea for a list, I'll be like, great, let's do it. So my goal is to keep the show going with Judd and I. And if Judd ever wants to pop in, he's in.
Okay, I'm trying to find a picture of me and Greg at WBC. And it's always a chore with me. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, you're good. You're good.
Oh, man. But it's a great picture. And I never knew that Greg can be that. I got it. I never knew that Greg can be that not serious. Let's see if I'm going to put it up. Here goes.
Perfect.
See, I never thought Greg would be that type of character. I thought he was always serious, and every time Judd would say something fanboyish, Greg would roll his eyes.
Yes,
and it was
that's right. Yeah, Greg's a hoot. When he goes to the WBC and I think even other cons, he makes his own jerky and shares it around. He makes
some of his jerky.
Yeah. He makes these buttons that are hilarious. He's always wearing his like retiree shirts, even on the show. Yeah, Greg's a hoot. He actually plays. Yeah, look at that. He actually plays a lot of different Euro games too. I mean,
you would never know. You would never know.
And he consumes rules and then breaks. He does this cool thing on BGG where he has these files. It's like he calls them one sheets. So you can read one sheet and it'll break down like the rules and the key points and how to play.
No way.
Oh yeah. Yeah. He's got maybe 23 of them now. And
war games included too?
I believe so. I haven't looked at a lot of, but like the first time I think I saw him doing it was we were playing Automobile from Martin Wallace.
Right. And
when you would play, you would hand these sheets out. And it just made the play so much more enjoyable. And he would tell you stuff like, when you're doing, I can't remember which phase, but he'd say, hey, your range here is going to be this to this. And that was kind of in the little one sheets as well. So for years, he worked at Boeing as an engineer. And for years, he was their technical writer of their like maintenance manuals. And if they had a problem, my understanding is they would even send him stuff and he'd go, and he'd rewrite it. So very skilled, fun guy. I will tell you though, and he gets, I don't think he likes when I say it. I was always intimidated when I taught a game to him. I'd be teaching something and suddenly he would look perplexed and he would grab the rule book. And in my head, it's like giving a speech or doing stand up, and all of a sudden you're in your head because I'd be like, oh crap, did I get something wrong? And I would go, what? And he'd go, man, that doesn't seem like that tracks right. And I'm like, crap. And then he'd find it, I'd be like, damn it. I can't teach games to Greg. He's
awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah. So he's a great guy though.
Now, is there any, I know you've invited me twice to this hand tag, the expansion, and I always feel intimidated because it's like I know it's different, but I mean, you had Greg and you had Judd. That's not that you could compare it, but it's hard to follow.
Yeah, we had a great time. So I mean, the whole deal is my thinking was, one, I want to have guests that represent the entire world. So, so if I could have the expansion, which just brings different people in and allows other voices, I love that concept, and I wanted to do that. Come on, you and I both love talking, know? So, and having an opinion and stuff like that. So that's what makes it fun for me. Having Judd and Greg here was great. I think we hit on magic. And Judd just was over here filming some stuff. And, we're both busy. He's got kids and sports and with the kids and his regular job, same here. So, but Judd's like, hey, I definitely want to do something with just you and I. We're going to call it Hand Tag Light, and Greg can pop in if he ever wants to, or if he doesn't want to, that's all fine and dandy.
Now, talking about Judd, does Judd not like me?
No, I think he likes you. Why? What did he do?
I'm in touch with him. I asked him to do a video intro, and he, yes, but then it's the yes, American style. Brush me off.
he doesn't he doesn't have any video equipment or anything. He doesn't do any of that. So like when he wants to do, he got the 1944 remake from Mark Herman.
Right.
And he called me. He's like, dude, it just showed up. I want to open this, but we talked about doing an unboxing, and he was the developer on it.
He's the developer on that, yeah.
Well, so he came over and we opened it, and it was funny because I told him, well, we did like a 1 hour deal where he talked about all the development as we unboxed it. And then I tell people, hey, I'm going to have to shoot a tight one that runs about 7 minutes when this is over. So we'll have both versions up. And then so I think it's just, and then I do all the editing. So it's funny because he did a playthrough, and he was killing me. And I finally told him, because he was like, oops, I made a slight correction there. Click that out and start here. And I'm like, Judd, you're killing me. That's going to be so hard to edit. If I say it, I know where I made the mistake. But if he's like, I'm like, how far back do I go? So that's going to take me some editing time. I have no problem doing it. I'll do it to the best of my ability, but in 1 minute, he had 5 edit corrections. I was like, crap, I won't know where to back up to.
Well, I mean, he's got eyes this big for sure. I mean, and he ain't no dummy. That's for sure.
Oh, smart guy. So I'm going to get that edited, but I finally stepped in and said, hey, you're killing me on this, man. You're going to have to tell me cut and then go back to, and he goes, ooh, I don't know if I can remember where to go back to. I go, well, then I definitely won't know where to go back to.
By the way, just like that, who gave you the idea for that title there, Hamtag the Expansion?
You. There's the credit.
Look, I don't want to blow my own horn, but boo.
That's right. That was a great title, man.
I thought it was.
Let me give a couple shout-outs. Mark Trowbridge says Starship Troopers was his first game as a 12-year-old in 79. The programming instruction method was superb for a keen young novice wargamer. Little did I know it was a cover for a gaming addiction. I feel your pain there, your pleasure.
I got it.
Let's play history, rules writing, and streamlining is quite a thing. Depends so much on a good written, structured, and flowing rule book. I agree. Trevor Just says, hello again, Chief and Dan. Hello, Trevor. Sergeant Jamie normally liked live, but live format of the new Hamtag wasn't as good. Well, the only way we could really do it with Paul and Dan was, to link up, and I guess we could, there's no real way to edit. You can't edit when you're doing that. So, and quite honestly, we didn't really edit Hamtag. So, part of the deal there was, we may click off if somebody came home or a phone rang or something, but our deal was to just roll it.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of almost a live recorded format anyway. There'll be some growing pains. I want to get back in with the expansion part. Ulfgar Halgrimson, I love that name, says, afternoon, gents, and Ardwolf's Lair. I feel like I, too, need to acquire a fancy hat. You should acquire, sir.
You see, people of the chat, now that's a pro, Bart. See, this is my show, but he just took over and read the things. But that's what I should be doing. But that's a pro, ladies and gentlemen. Me, I'm still learning. You know what?
We've been doing lives on the Scott show for probably 4 years. So
see, this is like what, my 4th live show. So I apologize for Bart's what do you call that? Forward.
Yes. Well, I took some liberties.
You're helping me out. I'm learning. I'm always learning. I love it.
I took the liberties. No, that was good. I just saw a couple of them, and I was like, "Ooh, that's a good one," because I also had a few of those, like Starship Troopers and stuff. So
I just had one. I think I bought it for, I think it was $10. And the guy told me, and it was in an old musty basement with mothballs. So when I opened up that game, I was like, whoo. Man, I had to air it out, but you know what? I'm glad I have it.
Oh, yeah. Well, and
here's another one.
Yeah.
Ambush.
Love it.
You did 3 or 4 modules of Ambush. Now, it took me a while to learn how to because once you know how to play the game, it's actually a very easy game. But to get to know how to play it with the cards and all that, it's like, what, man? What's he saying? What am I doing? How's this tank moving?
Yeah. Wow. The activation is probably the hardest thing to figure out.
The activation, you mean on the right-hand side, top right-hand side of the board? Like who goes first and this and that?
Yeah.
Well, once figured out, it's cool. But I had a hard time with that, man.
Yeah, because then the higher the initiative, the numerically more chance you have of being activated twice.
That's right.
Yeah. So, and then that's that 10-sided die roll. 10? Yeah, 10 or 12. 10-sided die roll. And you could still have the odd one out where your great capacity guy gets only one action. But, and then how the leaders, your two leaders, your sergeant, your lieutenant can give command actions to other folks that are within their sphere. I love that.
And that game taught me how to create strategies in Combat Commander, because you got to keep your leader close. It's a close-knit thing with your squad, because if that guy moves away, morale goes down, man. And what do I do now, Chief?
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, and totally.
You developed 3 modules. How do you do that?
All right. So, and I really had the 4th one was half done, and then my son came along and my free time disappeared. And then I outlined a Western version called Bushwhacked, which I want to get into, and I would love to do like a apocalyptic, version as well. I don't know what I would call it. Oh yeah. So that's the Follow Me, and I got 3 of them out. The 4th one was almost done. I need to go back and finish it. I was actually even trying to reprint that. I used to use a printer. Yeah, there you go. That's my favorite one right there. That introduces a medic. So let me talk to your question.
Go ahead, keep talking. I'll just show these things.
You bet. So it was funny. I love that game. I probably, that's another game that I played I had every expansion, and then I played them again, and then I would battle him and play it as the Marines. That one wasn't mine, but that came from the General.
Did it come from the General?
I think so. That one allows you to take all 8 scenarios from the original. No, the Fallschirmjäger, all 8, and then reverse them so that you're playing as a German parachutist.
Well, I don't know. How did you do the grid thing? Like, it must have, you must have known how much work Eric Lee Smith and Butterfield put into that game, and they don't even want to talk about that game anymore. It's so like,
right. So 2 things. One, it was a partner on the street, and then he was a partner when I was a detective, and he's very technically knowledgeable, and he could really handle an spreadsheet, an Excel spreadsheet. And I told him, hey, I know, I'd outlined him. I said, I know I want to tell a series in this game element because it lends itself to fan-built content. And now there's a way for me to even release it. So if people like it, they could even get them off eBay, and I could cover my printing costs and all this kind of stuff. But I don't know how to get that dang cartridge system to work. If I could do it now and I had the skill set, I think it would make a great app, because you could create it as an app, but I don't know how to do that either. It would take somebody. So I'm going to keep using the cartridge system. But my buddy said, man, I can put that in Excel spreadsheet, and all I got to do is play around with it. So I gave him my sleeve. I gave him one of the cartridges, which are what they called the hard cards that went in. He then played around with it, printed it on paper until he got it where it matched up. And then he made the cells translucent, so they went away. And they were all set with those windows, and it worked. Now, here's been my current problem. I had to go back to printing myself, and I've got a Mac. The dang Excel spreadsheet, when it transfers and talks to numbers, jacks it all up. And I spent 2 hours trying to reformat it. My whole plan is, by buying this PC, I'm going to be able to use the old stuff because I was having a hell of a time reformatting into numbers. I got one done and I was like, this isn't doable, because I've had a lot of people contacting me saying, please put those back in print. So here's what I did. So that was the technical part. My buddy saved me on that. And then I knew I wanted to have, there's a couple storylines that I thought of. And I thought, now how would I make, so here's the gist of what the mission would be. And then how do I make it challenging, but also rewarding? Because the best part about Ambush is you looked at the map and you might know you need to get over to whatever to do whatever. Well, how are you going to move your squad there? What's the best way so that you have cover or concealment, or you got to sprint through the openings? And so I then mapped it out on a piece of paper that I worked out how I thought I would want it to work and what kind of problems would be along the way.
Now, Jan Heinemann, he's your smart aleck German comrade. He has a question. What's Tiger?
Vietzer? Oh, Tiger. So I had there was actually a guy that was helping me who's lives in Germany. And I said, there's a couple things in there. One, it's Tiger. He said that's how Tiger is spelt or put down. And I've had people come in and say I'm wrong. And then I've had
right, Jan, is that right? Yes, smart aleck.
Right. Well, then I had two Germans arguing once on, I think it was in BGG, one saying it's totally fine if you use this format, and then somebody else said it's wrong. So I didn't care. It's just the title. If it's wrong, it's wrong. Just to give a sneak peek on that, what I say in there is that I think the narrative says that your medic's nickname is Tiger, but in that game somewhere there is a disabled Tiger tank that pops up or could pop up. It's not a definite. And so what I had in there was it was like a little nod, a little hint to the Tiger. And then I believe what I did is on the third mission, I have a counter that's actually a brand new counter that I helped create, which is a Tiger tank. So in the second mission, there you go. In a second mission, you're just using any kind of tank that you got. But by the third mission, I actually included a Tiger tank counter so that you could go back and use it in the second one. But I didn't want to spoil. That's part of the problem, because there's one counter in there. So if it's in there, you'd be like, "Ooh, I know there's a Tiger tank in here." So I created that. And my idea was I would do that, and then I could use these counters to different effect. So
now, Chief, because of the, I'm going to say unreplayability of Ambush, and it's not yet, you can play it multiple times, but you just know the surprises that are going to come out. Is there any way to make it replayable?
Yeah. So the one thing I did was there would be a few, and here's the hard thing, and I don't think I did as good a job as Butterfield and Smith. You have some decision trees, and that's what you can use the cartridges for. So if you go down route B, all of a sudden you got to do a cartridge change, and that changes everything as far as the story. So you can do multiple cartridges to change the story, but it's a little cumbersome. That's where it gets hard to track. And then the nuts and bolts of these games are that I would play out each decision tree to make sure there wasn't a part of it that was broken. In other words, you hit a hex and now it says go here, and then you're stuck because that route doesn't work. And then the other thing I screwed up was it would have been better. I was trying to work them as a follow me mission of 4, but I had them individually set up as different Word documents, and I should have. If I had today's technology, I would use one Word doc, but I would, on my copy, I would be able to see like the different colors, and I would know that mission 1 uses blue paragraph numbers. That way I don't duplicate paragraph numbers. Mission 2 uses red paragraph numbers, and then, whatever green colors. And that way, if I print it in black and white, you don't see the color gradients, but I would be able to have a whole book together. what I ended up with is I couldn't collapse them into one because mission 1 might have paragraph 187 and it says X and it's just for mission 1. Mission 2 might have 187, but it's totally to do with mission 2. So I couldn't collapse them. A bunch of people are like, hey, I want to buy all the missions. Can't you give a discount, print them all together and have one paragraph book? Well, I didn't think that far ahead. So I couldn't collapse them without having to go back and work every single paragraph decision tree. And I was like, crap. So when I was looking at doing Bushwhacked, the Western version, my plan was to use color on my Word doc so I could track and I wouldn't have duplicate paragraph numbers, but then print in black and white. And that should solve the problem and keep me from having issues, hopefully. So, but I've got to do that. The other fix would be current technology. Again, Ambush is set if you had it as an app, and I know people hate app-driven games.
That was going to be one of my questions.
Yeah, if you had it as an app, though, you could literally just punch in. I went to hex 180, or I went to hex A12. It could tell you none, or sniper, or whatever, and that decision tree could be done in the background, and it's so much less fiddly than whatever.
You're saying it could be done in the background, like as randomly, or you choose A, B, C, D card?
I would say the cards would be out, but the decision tree would still be inside the app. So I would know still that it's moving into a different cartridge or whatever.
Oh, okay.
But the app would take all of the fiddliness out of it and give you the paragraph. And so you wouldn't even have to look in a paragraph book. And then the paragraph, it could have a highlighted, do you pick this one or this one? Touch the screen. You're now reading that paragraph and resolving whatever that is. That would be the way to do it. That would take someone with programming skills and things I don't know anything about, but it would remove a lot of printing costs, the cartridges, the sleeve,
and the
paragraph book. It would speed it along. But it would require an app. And then, of course, apps have to be supported and all that kind of crap that goes with that. So, because even when I go back and play it now, it can get a little tedious with reading through, there's a little excitement to the window lining up.
Yeah.
And you're going, ooh, something happened, a random event or whatever. But that's, so I don't know. I think my hope is to get these old ones back in print if I can keep up with it. I actually looked into using the company that you can send them off and they print on demand. I'm forgetting.
Game Crafters.
Yes, I contacted them. The one problem I ran into there is the freaking counters. They won't just throw one counter in. It's usually like you're buying a counter sheet, or you would have to make your own counters or whatever. I don't know. Because I would make my own counters as well. I would print off a sheet that had them all stacked in. I would glue 2 pieces of chipboard together with this special glue.
Well, Chief, it's funny. I just got a game. A guy sent me a game from Game Crafters called, oh my God, I forget. I have it right here. Where is it?
Well, does it have one counter?
No, it has a small, like a quarter page counter. And he had multiple quarter page, that a burnt wood type of counter. Where's that game?
Well, it might work then. I might need to contact him, because that was what was slowing me down. Was printing costs went through the roof. I couldn't print them anymore. I was printing so much at one point, the manager was even giving me a discount at Kinko's, so that made it even more effective. Then they sold out to Kinko's FedEx, and all the prices started.
Yeah, forget it.
Yeah, all the prices started to go up, and I was like, crap, I can't print these unless I charge some ridiculous. They're already too much. I would tell people, sorry, man, I'm barely covering my printing costs here, let alone the posting and then what eBay charges. So then I was like, you know what? Early on, I was just printing these myself, and I'm going to try that again, because if I can get them going, it kind of motivates me to go make more of them. I enjoyed it, but I got to admit, my YouTube shows are taking up my free time as well.
No, I know what you're saying, because I was going to ask you now, with all that work you've put in, are you just going to let it go, or are you going to actually develop what you're talking about?
No, I would love to do more. I have the 4 missions for Bushwhacked figured out. The whole point was you were playing, because I was like, how would that work? So I had it that you were actually a band of 8 bandits, and it starts off with robbing a bank and then having a posse chase you down.
It sounds like not the Dirty Dozen, but
Magnificent Seven.
No. That comedy World War II movie. They got to get the gold in the bank.
Oh yeah, Kelly's Heroes.
Kelly's Heroes. Yeah.
Yeah, this was the whole deal was, though, that one where it's fun but challenging is, I got to rework, it's single fire weapons, or it's a shotgun, or it's a Winchester rifle, or it's a musket, or it's a cap and ball pistol. And I had to kind of figure out, the good thing is Ambush is comic book style, so I don't have to worry about a grognard, how does a Colt Navy compare to the Colt, double action. So I knew it was going to be, comic booked out, and I had some charts that I was working on, but I have to play it to see, does that work? How does that work? And it looks like, it was fun for me, the designing, and I love the name of Bushwhacked as part of I don't think I can call it an Ambush family, because it's a fan created deal. I got to be careful I don't get into their copyright, but and then my post-apocalyptic deal is cool, because my son, my almost 13-year-old son, loves role-playing. And I was telling him, hey, if I can get this up and running, there's some stuff you might be able to design, because he likes making his own role-playing. I'm like, there's a big role-playing element to Ambush.
Absolutely.
And I said, you might be able to. And he was like, okay, I'll look into it. I'll see. And if I could do it with him, part of the reason I like gaming, board gaming, I love solitaire games, but I like playing with the family and the friends too. So hopefully, I've got 8 years max, at which point I will not be forced to retire, but there'd be no point to stay on the police department, because I'd have my pension maxed, everything's set. 5 years might be my go date. And so 5 to 8 years would be when my free time will open up. And the only caveat to that was we haven't reached out, but we're looking for an agent for our Scotch show, because we got a TV pitch that we would like to do, but we don't know how to navigate that realm.
Now, hold on. Please remember that this is new information for me. Let me be professional here. We have Leonardo Jimenez. ¿Qué tal, Leonardo? Ham Tag, are they going to make a comeback? He said before, Judd's going to come back in. There's going to be a Ham Tag Lite. There's a Ham Tag expansion, but the original Ham Tag is probably what you're asking. Is Bart and Judd, like I said, Ham Tag Lite, and Greg is more than welcome to come and check out the show, participate in the show. So Leonardo, there's your answer. And you see, Chief, you just taught me how to do that, man. Yep,
it's perfect too. And you look so professional. I got a little excited.
Thanks, man. Now, going back to the ambush thing, I know we're going on and on. Chief, if you can, first of all, who does Ham Tag belong to now, the license?
Ham Tag?
Yeah. No. Ambush.
Ambush is still Avalon Hill, so it's under WizKids. So, yeah, so it's not, I don't know if it's going to release, but the crazy thing is Butterfield says he doesn't want anything to do with it. Neither does Eric Smith.
Butterfield and Eric Lee Smith. If you take that game, first of all, you're going to have to get the license from Hasbro. So I don't know why they're holding on to it. I mean, they don't even know it's there. I'm sure they don't even know it's there. But anyways, if you can get the license, restart Ambush again, and if you can do the replayability factor, you're a rich man, my friend.
Maybe. I don't know. The story-based games, when they were coming back, and they're kind of growing into their own right now, and I thought maybe Ambush will get a refresh. It couldn't be me to do it. There's a skill set there that I just couldn't do. I mean, I can keep making my fan-based ones and keep the game alive that way. That was my original plan, was that if it branched out and it wasn't costing me anything, great. You know, I mean, if I could even, that's what's so weird though. So you got the ability to do all that through eBay, but they take their cut.
Yeah.
You know, and I thought, geez, no one will want to pay X amount because they could almost go get a game, but it kept it alive, and I enjoyed the creative element of it. So there's no way I would be able to, you know, the rights are tied up and everything else, and I know the game's hard to find, and but you know, I'll have fun with it, and I'm not a designer in that aspect. It was funny. BGG got a hold of me when I had those missions out. And one of their admins got a hold of me and said, hey, we need to create a page because a bunch of people are contacting us saying they want these things listed just so they can find out about them. And I said, well, yeah, sure, whatever, you know. And they go, well, we'll do this. And then the guy came back and said, well, we're going to give you designer and publisher credit. I go, oh, no.
You get in so much trouble, man.
No, they did it. Now, they didn't give me credit for Ambush. They gave it under my name. So they gave me a designer page, which I didn't know what the heck that was. Turns out it's helpful on BGG because that's where I post my shows, like live shows and stuff. I'll put them on my designer page. They gave me a designer page. They put them there, and they said they're just fan-created missions that can be used. I'm sure that's the lingo with Ambush. And that's all legal. That's fine. Anybody can go create something to be used with a system. And then they said, you list BOA publishing. I'm like, well, that's just something stupid I use based on Ambush publishing, blah, blah, blah. That was so that because I had to cover profits. So I needed something, and my person that does my taxes says you need something to show it. And I'm like, okay. Well, he goes, I don't care. You're a publisher too. And I'm like, God, no. And he goes, you know how many people beg us for this? I'm like, yeah, but I don't feel deserving. He goes, it doesn't matter. That's it. And you got it. And I'm like, so then I get these little tags next to my name. He's like, you produce these yourself. That's published. And you design these little modules. I'm like, yes. All he said, is that true or is that not true? I go, that's true. And then it was helpful because I can use the designer page to post, you know, videos that aren't under a games page.
And it's true. You got to be super legit because you're a cop.
Well, I mean, I don't need to create any problems. And my thoughts in my mind were that if Hasbro or anybody said, we don't like that, I'm like, okay, remove it, you know, but I never called it Ambush. You notice I call them Follow Me.
Yeah. So,
and it's just a system that you can use with the structure of Ambush. So
Trevor just in the comments was good. This was my next question. If you know Uwe Eichert, you know him very well. If you take this idea to Uwe's open to a lot of things, man.
Yeah. My deal was I don't have the time to pitch anything to him, and there's all the work to do that. My idea was just put out the content, print it myself, get it doable. And if it was, my one thought was like, if I could stay consistent, just like with the show, you know, or the two shows, you got to be consistent. And I put out Bushwhacked or an apocalyptic version or a zombie version or whatever. And I had a bunch out there and they sold consistently. And that's why I thought about using Game Crafters. So then I wasn't in the business of printing them because that takes a lot of time and money. That if I could get that going, and if somebody thought, hey, that seems to be working, they would come to me and say, we'll have a developer take this over. I'm not going to pitch anything to anybody. I don't have the time. I can't even get them out or created. You know, everybody's got a great idea. Bringing the idea to fruition is a whole different thing.
I understand, but you know for a fact. Let's say there's 10,000 people that play war games. Do you know that if Uwe would print 5,000, He'd have to do a reprint because that would sell instantaneously. Hey, look, everybody's asking, when will this be reprinted? Why can't we have another ambush? Blah, 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 all the time.
Yeah, I mean, maybe somebody, you never even know. In their industry, there may be somebody trying to get the rights for it now.
Maybe. Yeah.
So, I mean, that actually brings another thing. That's why I was always careful just to name it my own thing. BOA Publishing is BOA Publishing. It's not affiliated. It's not no rights to it. It's just my own creation.
Yeah.
And I even looked up the laws. The laws allow you to use mechanics of other games. You can't patent a mechanic.
Right.
But they patent their names and their logos and all that. So that's why nothing on there says ambush, but it all works with. Even on eBay, I would say that these are fan created by me and they work with the components of ambush. And
right.
Legally, everything I've read, that would be legit. But I got to be careful because if some company wanted to get the rights, if I was stepping all over them, I would get a cease and desist letter. So,
like they would ask you to drop it, or you think they would sue you instantaneously?
I think I would probably get a letter, but that's why I've never used anything. BOA Publishing was done on purpose. I didn't want to use based on ambush. Who knows? Maybe it means a snake. Maybe it's don't tread on me. It's BOA Publishing. Whatever.
Yeah.
But I mean, and based on's whole different thing than part of. So it's just based on. I mean, there's Twilight Struggle clones that are out there that borrow mechanics and stuff. So mechanically, I can do whatever. The stories that are portrayed are completely mine. But I need to get back to creating them. And it would take me about 3 months to get a mission done from start to finish.
That's not bad. Well, that's not bad because you already have the experience of creating one.
Right. And it wasn't like I was working on it full time, but I would be sitting at a desk with music on and I would be working through. What I would usually do was I know what I've outlined that I want to happen. So then I'm looking at the map and I'm figuring out where I want things to be. And then I'm building a story and then I'm creating subtrees and then I got to make sure it works. And then I would fill in, because some hexes would have almost nothing to do with the freaking, I'm like, okay, but if you crest a ridge, maybe that's where a sniper might take a shot at you.
Right.
So.
Well, Bart, do you want to approach anything else? We've been going on for an hour and 7 minutes. What sounds to it felt like 10 minutes to me. But what do you want to talk about, Bart?
All right, let's see. So I've been recently playing Gettysburg. I did a review of this. Of course, this is part of the C3I magazine game series. Yeah. This is the deluxe. Mark Herman did this, and then volume 2 was Waterloo. So you can see they're kind of keeping a little theme going, even with how it pictures, which is kind of neat. I'm going to tell you, I love what's going on here because this is not a monster war game. This is, you can play it in 2 to 3 hours. Everything feels streamlined. I feel like it plays more toward game rather than simulation, but it's true to history at the same time. So I loved how this worked. I'm just now getting into the Waterloo campaign of 1815. Waterloo's not really, the Napoleonics aren't my strong point, but I love the system, so I'm curious to see how that works. I will tell you that Tank Duel from GMT, it has these cards that trigger everything, and kind of like Title Bout or whatever, and I really loved the theater of the mind that this created. So GMT put this out. It can play up to eight players. The whole impetus was these guys were playing the instead of a first-person shooter, I call it a first tank shooter, the World of Tanks online. And I never played that, but they wanted to put that into a board game style format. I think they did a great job. If you don't like the card resolution, you probably won't like the game. But I love the idea that I've got multiple options. Do I want to move? Do I want to pull that wounded driver out of the way so I can get out of here? Do I want to do X, Y, Z? Do I want to shoot? And then once you make that determination, you flip the cards to see, is it sometimes you can just move, but on a shot, you got to flip multiple cards and look in different places. It played in an exciting story element kind of way that I liked. And this is all Eastern Front with German and Russian tanks. I could see GMT, if it does well, adding in the British tanks, the
of course.
Yeah. So there's some neat elements there. And I haven't even gotten into, there's AT guns, and then there's infantry and maneuver stuff. I haven't gotten into those rules, but I will tell you that I love the current state of gaming.
Yeah.
I don't know how long you want to go, but your show with Uwe was fascinating. That was his view as a designer and a developer.
Go on. Look, I'm home. You're home.
Yeah. I watched that entire show. Fantastic show. Great to have him on. Kudos on that. And his ability to just go is entertaining. He's always fun to have on.
The guy's a smart man. First of all, he's German engineering. He's had like 8 businesses. He said he was he made the scissors for hairstyling, because you can tell by the way he coiffs himself, because he's also a beautiful, good-looking guy.
He's a beautiful man. He's a beautiful.
The guy's a martial artist.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
He's a gun nut.
Yeah, I knew he hunts, and he coaches. What is it? Soccer? No,
he's shaped like that. He coaches like 15, 16-year-olds, so he's got to run with these guys, man.
He plays the violin, and he's in these little he goes to these festivals. It's awesome.
Guys like that make me sick, anyways.
No, so let me give you my state, because it was funny when you had that. I was actually, so I'll give you my perspective. My perspective as a reviewer, and a reviewer may not be the right way to go, but as someone on the media side that puts out information on games, one of my joys is playing a lot of different games. I don't do these deep dives where I could spend years with just 3 games. I'll kudos to those that do. I totally get it. What I did with Ambush and B-17 was right up that alley. I played them for years, multiple times, and I do get enjoyment from that. But I love the Christmas effect of a brand new game comes in, and then I'm going to unbox it, and I get to share that. And then I do a light dive into the game on what it does and what I like about it. So that's my framework in the industry, is again, reviewer is not necessarily right, because I'm not coming down on judgment. I'm just basically saying, this is what this does. This is what I like about it. And we're in this golden age. Uwe covered how it's getting overextended.
I think so.
I think it is, but I think I remember as a kid looking at the Avalon Hill catalog, and you had some stuff spoon-fed to you.
Yep.
That's why they sold 50,000 copies, is because they did everything at the forefront and then marketed it to you, and they kind of knew the strengths and the weaknesses. But you're getting so many different styles of games. Without Mark Herman, Victory Games wouldn't have been out there. Avalon Hill probably wouldn't have put out all those beautiful games that they did.
Oh.
But you know what? SPI gets bought out by TSR, right? And then Mark Herman leaves. I think that's the history of it. Was it SPI or Strategy and Tactics? I always forget. But that's why that innovation happened there. So I love the volume coming out. Is it sustainable? No, I don't think it is. What will happen is, in a business format, you're going to have companies that don't do it well. They will not survive. They'll fall away. And companies that do it well will be able to weather the storm. And that's why Academy Games, what Uwe was saying was interesting, because that's been my opinion for a long time. And then you heard Uwe talking about he designs a series because the evergreenness of it lasts. It's got a long tail because you're adding to it, and people know the system and they can jump in and they either like it or they don't. And if they overwhelmingly like it and you're able to give them new things, they're both financially rewarding and game rewarding. And that is
that with their tactical series, man.
Yes. And then the Birth of America, and now what, the Birth of Europe series and all the stuff, you know, the Vikings version and all that coming out. So I think it's interesting to see that element of it. And the way he talked about Kickstarters and how if they're not done right, you go broke. Well, oh shoot, he's going to be pissed. I forgot his name. Game company put out, oh my gosh.
Give me the company.
I'm thinking that's why I'm blanking on it. I'm blanking on everything. What?
Who's the guy's name?
It's not a war game company. It's the he's putting out the Mars game that's hot right now. I'm drawing a total blank.
Oh, Stephen Bonacore.
Bonacore. Jeez, Bonacore. My God.
Come on, he's my brother from another mother.
I know. He and I hang out when I'm a BGG. But Bonacore talked about if you're going to do a Kickstarter or sell a game, it's got to be 5 times over what it costs you to make it.
Can you say that again?
If you make a game, the retail has to be 5 times more than what it costs for you to make it. So if it costs you
come into your money.
Yeah, if it costs you $10 to get the thing in front of you, $10 for everything here, you've got to sell it for 50. Is that right? Or do you got to sell it for 60?
Middleman.
Yeah, well, the middleman, but you got to pay the shipping, you got to cover repairs, the storage. And he says if you can't create a game that can do that, you go broke. And
that's insane. That's insane.
But that's retail. I actually knew somebody that was they were making something, and they liked what was it? It might even, I can't remember if I read it or talked to a businessman, because Scotch wise I'll run into some business folks. Uwe hit on it a little bit. With the board game industry exploding, as you layer new people on, you can sell more and more. But the profit margins, so if I could put money into an industry and I know that my money's going to come back on average at 300%, why would I put into something where I'm going to make 10% back?
I know. So I don't know why anybody would get into the board gaming industry knowing all these stats, man. Are you kidding me? 5 times?
But that also tells you why China is the leader in production, because they were able to boost the quality while bringing down the cost point. So the gamer felt like they were getting their money's worth or more, and the publisher was able to make that element that kept them in business and kept them profitable, because they've got to make a salary, they've got to pay employees, insurance, office space.
It's insane.
But that's the interesting part about it. The guys that did Days of Wonder, their whole deal was they made all their money Silicon Valley, and they would create a company and then they would make it and sell it and cash out. And they wanted to do Days of Wonder because they loved this idea of Hasbro or these companies, and that they could point to it. And their plan was not to make it and sell it. But sure enough, Asmodee offers them money, and I think they sold it for 20-some million. And they flipped it. I think they were in it 10 years or more, but then they flipped it and got out. So you can do it, but they only did 1 game a year. And, they better get some hits, but of course, Ticket to Ride.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I mean, so that's the way you win, is you get something that just, pandemic, and it just sells and sells and sells and sells. And, I mean.
Now, the big board, that's Kevin. Kevin is a businessman, and hang on 10%. I don't know, Kevin, I don't know what you were referring to. Kevin does videos on the big board, and he's a grognard, so he Everything is short little letters. I'm playing the ACS of the OVV of the GBB. I don't know what the hell he's talking about more than half the amount of time.
And my numbers are made up. So, I mean, don't listen to Uva on real numbers.
Okay.
I'm just saying that if I worked at a business and I made 10%, if all I was profiting was 10% off of my cost,
forget it.
Right, because I could go put money into a very nice Vanguard fund and probably average 8, and it would be secure, or as safe and secure as you can get, but it would be way safer than trying to run a company, not to mention all the work that's involved.
Yeah, I know.
That's my only point with, you got to factor in your own time and everything. Like what you and I do with the show, even if we made more money at it, the amount of time, if you break it down by what you make per hour, we're not making anything per hour. You know, I mean, it's more for the fun of it, which is great. But if I was wanting to feed my family and have insurance,
forget it.
Right. It would be irresponsible for me to, I'm going to work at this for the fun of it. I mean, I do all this. If it makes some money, great. It lets me buy better equipment, pay for the internet connection. You know, my wife's like, your internet connection's $150 a month. And I'm like, yeah, it's crazy. Because when you do lives and on the Scotch show, you got to have a quality live feed and you got to upload stuff. But I'm able to use the Scotch show pays for the internet connection. So, but.
And you see the big board? That's Kevin. He's trolling me. What do you do with trolls? What do you do with trolls, man?
Give him a hug. We love it, man. We get people that come on to the Scott show, and Scott and I, the first time he got some negative comments, it bothered him. And I said, oh, no, that means you're doing good, because you got people that take the amount of time to type in some stuff. Like we've had people come on and say, you guys are idiots. The tall guy with the stupid shirt and the hat, F that guy. I mean, it's like, and Scott will phone me and go look at the comment. And I'll go, hell yeah. And then we give him a Scotch God shout out. And we enjoy them because, quite honestly, if you don't have critics, it means you ain't doing jack.
You know what, Kevin's I call him the CEO, the big man, the master of his domain, the dictator of his little country. You know, Kevin, I love you, brother.
Hey, has that little episode that you're doing for Board Game Breakfast, has that come out yet?
Which one?
Well, you sent me that little link where you were doing this cool stuff.
No, that's going to happen. If Tom is consistent in his weekly things, it should happen in about 5 weeks. I've got that many videos ahead, you know?
Perfect. Yeah, I loved it.
Talking about the Board Game Breakfast. You were on. You were me a few years ago.
Yes. Yeah, I know, but yeah, he likes stuff layered out so that he can keep it. He's gotten much more efficient, though. I could get him something within a week, and he was good. So that was part of my deal. I had to get him something once a week, and it was hard. So
yeah, I mean, that's what I do.
Right. That was part of my deal for stepping away and starting my own channel. Was the whiskey thing was taken off, and I couldn't do 4. And I committed that I can do at least 2 Bonding with Board Game episodes a month, and I'll be happy with that content. If I get more, great, but I do not stress. I've had people say, I'm dropping your channel. You don't put out enough. Please drop. I mean, I do what I can, and I do not try to dictate to anybody what they watch or don't watch. So,
I know. Some of these people who just throw out a comment out there like that, I don't think they have any idea what the editing process is alone, not the filming process, the editing process. It's more than 3 times the amount of the filming time. But your segment on the Dice Tower was way longer than mine. You had your segment. You weren't part of a collaborator on a Board Game Breakfast like me.
Right.
You had 15 minutes, right?
Right. Yep. Yeah. And if that, he would tell me that was too long. He goes, I'm going to post it, but I want you at 11 minutes. And I'd be like, damn. But that was actually part of the forge that helped form me, because I've gotten sloppy, in my opinion. I don't mind going over because it's YouTube. And if you want to watch, you can watch. If you don't, you can clip away. But he knows exactly what he's talking about. If you went over 12 minutes on his channel, and I get the analytics as well, your viewership and the people that even click on it starts to go down.
I know.
So he would tell me, your skill set needs to become, talk to me about that game in 11 minutes. And you're going to have to skip stuff. Boy, you better be able to explain it properly in 11 minutes. And that takes some stuff. And I need to get better. I've actually, and it saves you editing time too, if you can get better. But
yeah. And you know what? Tom's a great school. Okay. The man is super smart. He's business savvy.
yeah.
He's got the persona for the camera, because he invited me over to the marathon, right? So I got to see how everything works. And Tom, when he's on camera, he's all like this. As soon as it stopped, bang, it's business. Let's do this, let's do that. And I thought, man, what a skill this guy's got, you know?
Yes.
And live, it doesn't come off as insincere. He's very sincere. He's enjoying it.
I think that's the trick. And he told me that when I started. He said, if this starts to ruin your love for games, stop. He goes, you got to like filming it. You got to like opening it. You got to like editing it. You got to like putting up a title. You know, I mean, and I was like, oh, okay. And he goes, trust me, if you start to hate it, it'll ruin the whole hobby for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, and that's the key. And that keeps me enjoying it. You know, I'll, some of what I do is I'll have funny comments or whatever. I'll make fun of myself when I mess up a rule and I put a little text up there. I kind of enjoy, I don't mind. Sometimes editing is a beast. I've had games. Oh, I'll give you one of my favorite stories. I kept effing up a rule while I was explaining it. And I was stumbling over my words. It was late. I'd worked all day. And I ended up letting a bunch of expletives fly. Right?
You told me, yeah.
Oh my God. I said, and it was like cop horrible. It was like effing, and it was bad. But I'd messed that up so much that when I went in to edit, I thought I had clipped the bad part. And I didn't watch the whole thing through, and I left in a big F-bomb dropper. And I post it. And I'm at work, and all of a sudden I'm seeing messages come in, and they're like, God dang it, at minute 16:25, the chief, you know, and then someone's like, my kids there heard that. And I was like, what the heck are they talking about? You know, some guy had it in the car taking his kids to school, and all of a sudden I'm like, flam, flam, mocha, mocha, nakabuka. And I was like, what? And I literally took like 2 hours vacation time because I played it up, listened. I went, oh my God. And I had to run home and drop it, re-edit it, clip that out, and throw it back up. And I was so embarrassed. And people are like, why would he even be cursing like that? Well,
he's a cop, number one.
Well, yeah. And when you blow a line or you blow a rule and you know what the rule is and you keep doing it wrong, it's like, what the F am I doing?
Yeah, maybe you should just stop it for the night, go to sleep, and take it over again.
Yeah, and that's what I should have done. So now I'll do that. If I catch myself cursing at my mistakes, I go, okay, I'm out of brain power or mouth power, and I just put it away.
Oh man, sometimes I slur my words, and it's like people call me out on it. What the heck was that?
Yeah,
it's like I'm tired, man.
Yep. So that's my litmus test now. If I start dropping curse words, I'm no longer having fun. It's weird how it'll sneak up on you that I'm not having fun at that point in time, and I'll say that's not why I'm doing this, and I stop the video, and I usually say, I just cursed, don't leave this in. And then I wave at the camera. I do all stuff so I don't leave it in. And then I come back later. So.
Look, Bart, here's another troll. That's another troll.
What's that, the AJ?
Yeah, AJ Toynbee of Hexes and Soldiers, the Mr. Tattoo. You know? And look, trolls stick together. Look at that.
That is the beauty of live, is that you don't have to, there's nothing to edit.
Oh, so. You know what? It's because you're lazy, AJ. And it's because you're lazy, Kevin. Okay? Anyways.
Cool.
Well, what was it? What else? I had to, you know, I'm having this, I'm going to have another show tonight, believe it or not. That's why I was surprised when you came this morning and said, weren't we supposed to go on? And I thought, did I just forget something? And then it hit me. Oh my God, I did. I spoke to you, and I'm gonna have Kai Jensen, man.
Oh yeah, you did tell me you were gonna have Kai on.
Yeah,
So
I spoke to her. I mean, we don't know each other. I spoke to her. This is a super lady. She's straight ahead. Obviously, she's going through rough times because of the passing of Chad.
Right.
And it's funny. I said something to her. I said, it's funny how I don't know your husband, and I'm speaking for a lot of people here, but we kind of do know him because of the way he structures his games and his mechanics. And that's why a lot of people were all a little taken aback when Chad passed. You know, it's like, oh man, because you get to know the man without knowing the man, you know?
Right. Totally. No, 100%. Yeah, no, that's a great guess. You did tell me that. And I know we FaceTimed and my wife was talking on the side, and maybe it was in my head that I was thinking we would do a little something on today just because I was off. But hey, you and I could go live, I think, with zero input. We would both be able to put out a show that's an hour and 30 minutes long.
Well, that's what we just did.
I know. I just looked at the time.
I know.
No. Thanks for having me on your channel, and you got me motivated to get my this Dell PC up and running so that I can have a decent background.
How powerful is that PC you got?
It's not that much, you know. I mean, I don't do any editing on this. What I wanted was I use a Mac Pro, and I couldn't. You know, I'm stuck in my office, and I thought I want to do these lives either in the board game corner over there or with my whiskey corner over here. Those are my two sets, and my co-host was like, go get one of those brand new Macs. And I looked, it was $4,000. I'm like, no way.
Bloody hell.
Yeah. And he goes, well, no, you can do all your editing and stuff there. And I'm like, man, I don't need all that. My other Mac, the reason I bought an expensive Mac in 2012 is because they run forever. And that's where I do all my work and my editing. So,
well, I mean, you got a good 7-8 years when you buy a Mac, you know?
Oh, at least.
They build in the obsolescence factor. They shoot you down. It can't be upgraded. It can't be this. It can't be that. So I kind of hate them for that.
Well, that Mac Pro I got, though, it has the slots in the back where I can up the RAM, which is what I need to do. Because if I try to do some 4K for the whiskey show, and it wasn't handling the 4K when I was doing the editing, so I got to up my memory. But that was the reason I bought that, was that it would have a long tail. So
yeah.
But this dang PC, man, it's Windows 10, and it came with something called Microsoft Edge, and it wouldn't allow Chrome to be loaded. And I was like, oh, I was cursing. I almost sent it back.
What'd you pay for it?
It was $460, a lot cheaper.
Really?
Yeah, a lot cheaper than $4,000. I can tell you that.
Absolutely, but the thing is, you know, I try to I gotta shut everything down. So I film with Filmora and iMovie, okay. And I've got to shut everything down because I have a high end. I have the middle of the road iMac. Okay, it's got 16 gigs of RAM. It's a 3-core, a quad core, whatever. Blah blah blah, and it still lags, man.
You know, some of that could be connection too when you're doing StreamYard. But StreamYard's great. We've been good here, so hopefully that works. So, what do you want? Anything you want to add on the board gaming or the wargaming world?
No, you see, people, that's a pro. You see how he's easing me off? He's telling me to shut up and get lost because I've had enough. But that's a pro, ladies and gentlemen.
No, you are putting out great content. I love your show.
No, Kevin. See that guy, Kevin. He's got me, man. Bart. No, it's cool. We spoke about a lot of stuff. A lot of off the cuff stuff. Everything was off the cuff. The ambush thing was incredibly interesting. I wish something could come out of that, because not that I have any money to back you, but I think I'll buy a game.
Well, I want to get back into making the different episodes just because I find those enjoyable. And when I do, that was one thing with my channel. There's some help I'll need. Like, I do not know how to create a proper map or anything like that, because if I do a Western version, I could still do that on the maps that come with the regular ambush. That's what I try to do. It's a little limiting, but You know, I mean, and I can't go into all the expansions because they're so expensive and people don't have them. So you're stuck with the 2 maps that come with the original game. It'll work well with a Western version because you have wood homes, you have stone homes, no problem. So, but you can't, you're kind of stuck. That's why I was looking at maybe even some overlays. If anybody watching this now or later is real good about matching that style, but they have to be created 100% by an individual and wants to make something that I could print on a sheet, and they're a little expensive as an overlay, that would allow me to do that. But no need to do that now. Let me get number 4 finished and follow me, which doesn't need an overlay. And if I can get back started, I'll look to the fan base or people with skills I don't have to maybe help me out with a mapping overlay or something. Because
Judd, can't Judd help you out and stuff like that?
Well, you know, he's busy too. There was a guy that had a great Western theme that he was going to do. He was mapping out buildings and all kinds of cool stuff, and they looked great. And then he just disappeared because I'd contacted him and said, these look great. You know, if you're able to, if you're willing to let me use these, I could make some new content. And then I never heard back from the guy, so I'm not going to use his work, obviously. So
okay, last question, and then I'll let you go, Chief. Is the Grognard dead?
Oh, like the hardcore war gamer guy kind of no. You're on an interesting point though. And when I run across grognards, hold on, sorry, woo, frog. What I try to tell them to do is, excuse me, we need youth in the wargaming niche now, or niche. There's so many games coming out that it's a nice environment. I like games like Gettysburg that are easy to be crossed over. So somebody loves the Civil War and they like playing Euro games, they can pick this up and run with it.
Yeah, but I mean, Mark Herman is a master.
He is. That's why he does what he does. But I love what Mark Herman's been doing with Churchill and Fort Sumter, and you know, he's not doing a you need 2 tables to play this big sim and it's going to take you 3 months. Those are fine, but there's not a lot of long tail or evergreen, in my opinion, there. What I love to see when I'm at a convention, for a while there, I was getting nervous because it seemed like it was graying. It was all old folks my age or older. And I'm thinking, geez, is this industry literally going to age out and die? But then I started seeing some younger guys in their 20s and 30s that are coming in and playing stuff like this. And I thought, great. So, and seeing all these different games come out, I think you'll always have your grognards. And I love those guys too. And some of them will be the biggest critics saying, you know, you got to play a game 10 times before you review it. Well, I don't have to. So I don't have their skill set or their ability to play that much of one game.
I know.
Yeah. So
are you going to WBC?
No, definitely not. I went there once. It was fun. It harkened back to when I got the general and would look at Avalon Con and go, God, I wish I could go. I don't go to WBC too much. I don't do as much competitive gaming. They have a great.
Oh, no, it's different now, Bart. There's Euros. It's huge. It's just upstairs. The Grognards do their competition upstairs, and in the mid floor, it's one big party, man.
Well, okay. I mean, I'm gonna have to go. I went with my wife once, and I didn't mind all the challenge games and seeing the old stuff. And there was a B-17 group that was awesome. You know, there was a lot of neat stuff. Their open gaming suffered because they wanted so much. My wife was traveling around when it was in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. So she would be like, hey, I just want to play like a couple hours with you tonight. And she came into the boardroom and she was like, hey, you don't have a tag, get out. And, you know, I mean, and that's fine. She should have to pay, but I was like, can we buy a one night deal or maybe just an open gaming room for $10 or a ribbon or like Origins or something? Nothing against WBC. I love the Avalon hill foundations that are there.
I think it's different. I've only been once, but I think it's different now. The atmosphere is way more friendly, and we're going to have a tournament. I'm setting up a tank duel thing for 8 people. Mark Herman's going to play. I think John Butterfield's going to play. Yeah, no, it's a lot of fun, man. A lot of fun.
That would be fun. I'll tell you, the only time I had a problem at the one WC I was at, it had nothing to do with the War Gamers. It was a hardcore Euro gamer. I sat down at a game of Puerto Rico, which I'd only played once, and I didn't know it, but I was sitting at the table with one of the past champions, and a guy sat at the table with the intention of knocking that guy out. And I did a play that was like suboptimal because that thing's almost like programmed. And the guy goes, "What the hell you make that play for?" And I was like, I don't know. I wanted to make coffee. I don't know what the hell I wanted to do. And he goes, "Well, you're going to throw the game to so-and-so." And then that guy goes, "No, I still would have beat you by 4 points." And I'm like, God dang, what the heck am I doing at this Euro table?
Yeah, no, it's not only like that.
No. And that was a Euro game. And I got to tell you, War Gamers are the most friendly, open, I'll teach you this game people I've ever run into. Some of the hardcore Euro folk, if you play suboptimally, this guy was like, he was like in my face. He wasn't physically in my face, but he was talking some heavy trash. And I was like, screw you, buddy. But,
yeah. Anyway.
No. So,
thanks, Chief, we're going to let it go at 1 minute and 41 seconds.
I'm sure you'll get a lot more views at an hour 41 than you ever would get.
Well, we'll see. And thank you, chat. Thank you, trolls, Kevin and AJ. Thank you for trolling. And we have some intellects, like I said, Jan Heinemann. And again, Chief, thank you very much, man.
Oh, you're awesome, brother. I love what you're doing, man. You filled the niche. Nobody's doing what you're doing.
Well, I keep calling you and busting your chops. And what should I do? What should I do? Am I doing this right? Thank you very much for that.
I can't wait till they get to see you throw stuff at Tom.
Well, that's on Board Game Breakfast. So most of the guys,
they need to go watch that. That was hilarious, and I think you'll probably trigger some Euro gamers that'll say that's not nice.
I know. That's why I make the disclaimer saying this is a joke.
I love it.
Okay, so I'm gonna do the outro. Chief, wait, don't go. And thank you very much, people. And I'll see you sometime.